I'm in a tough spot and could use some outside perspective. My cousin Emma and I have never been particularly close, but we've always been civil. When she got engaged in December 2022, I sent her a thoughtful present which she thanked me for repeatedly. Fast forward to 3 months ago and Emma invited me to her wedding. Living abroad and starting a new job, I made it clear that I needed advance notice to attend, and thankfully I managed to make it. Emma asked me to be part of her wedding entry, and despite our not being very close, I agreed, hoping it would help us build a better relationship. However, just before the wedding, I found out she'd been talking negatively about me and my career as a project manager. It stung, but I didn't want to cause drama before her big day, so I kept quiet. During the wedding weekend, I helped Emma get dressed for her Hindu ceremony, and her mom told me to leave the jewellery as she would handle it later, so I only packed away the bangles. The entry went smoothly, and I attended the reception without any complaints. However, after the wedding, I chose not to leave a gift, intending to address the hurtful comments privately after the festivities. Days later, Emma asked me about the missing jewellery, and I told her I hadn't touched it beyond what her mom instructed. Later that day, I saw Emma posting on Facebook about missing jewellery and implying that someone in the family might have taken it. I felt uneasy, especially since her mom and I were the only family members helping her get dressed. Then things escalated when her sister commented on the post saying, "We didn't like her anyway." Her mom reached out to me asking about the bangles, which made me feel like they were singling me out. Even my grandmother called, further cementing that they may have discussed me as a suspect. Finally, another cousin messaged me saying the jewellery was found boxed up in a car, but Emma refuses to retract her accusations online because she's embarrassed. Feeling betrayed, I cut Emma and her mom out of my life. I deleted them from my socials and blocked their numbers. My grandma is upset, saying I was unfair for not explaining myself. So, am I the idiot for cutting them off without explanation? Should I have handled the situation differently? Not the idiot, they said you stole. Stuff was found. They owe you a massive public apology. Tell Grandma to talk with them as they are the only ones at fault. They sound like exactly the kind of people to go no contact with. Personally, I would shame them on their social media and then block them, but that's just me. Also, the talking negatively about your job sounds like jealousy to me. Keep them out of your life. I go on social media with, "Heard you found your missing jewellery in your own car of all places. So crazy. I also heard you were too ashamed of your wildly off-base accusations to apologise. I'm curious if you'd clear it up on social media. You know, since you were so public about your accusations, you should also rescind them publicly." Then block her so she can't delete the comment from her page and it remains there for everyone else to see. As I said before, who the heck needs enemies when you got relatives like that? Opie is a much better person than me because I'd shame her on social media too. The whole family sounds horrible if they were all willing to blame OP for something without any proof. In fact, the OP should roast all of their bony, shriveled up butts just as publicly as they all blamed her instead of just the bride. Everyone has relatives they can do without. I'm a 26-year-old female. I've been with my husband since we were 14 and we had a baby less than a year ago. I've always gotten along with my mother-in-law. She's a very sweet woman who would literally take the shirt off her back to make sure I'm okay. I love this woman tremendously, but for whatever reason, every single time she's come over to see the baby, my daughter screams bloody murder the entire time she's here. She doesn't do this with anyone else, but the second my mother-in-law walks through the door and my daughter sees her, she's in my ear screaming, hyperventilating and inconsolable. It's been like this since she was born. My mother-in-law first visited when she was less than a week old, and it was the same thing then. We've never been super cautious about having people over to see our daughter, but like I said, she's not like that with anyone else. She doesn't like some people touching her, but she never cries. My mother-in-law is just the polar opposite. She's been able to successfully hold her once without screaming. Still, it was when she was holding her face away from her and my husband was entertaining her to keep her distracted. My mother-in-law comes over once a week and honestly I've just started completely dreading her coming here at all because I'm not kidding. My daughter screams the entire time and sometimes my mother-in-law doesn't leave for a couple of hours. It's not fun for anyone involved. Well, she came here yesterday and my husband is starting to get irritated by the fact that our daughter refuses to warm up to his mother because she's been a huge part of our lives. So he suggested that she start coming here more often than she already does to attempt to force the bond. I personally know it doesn't work like that. If the bond was going to happen, it would have already. She simply does not like my mother-in-law. I thought maybe it was the perfume my mother-in-law wore, so she stopped wearing perfume, but that did nothing. I told her not to wear jewellery to see if that helped, but again, that did nothing. I've even had her put her hair up, thinking maybe my daughter was getting overwhelmed by not being able to see her face completely, and that actually made it worse. I told her to stop baby talking her, because she has a very high-pitched baby talk voice, but her normal voice didn't calm the baby down either. And honestly, I'm exhausted and fed up with trying. I don't think we should try. I think we need to let it go and let it form naturally. She'll warm up to her eventually in her own time. But my husband is basically just not okay with it, all because my mom came here to see us for the first time last month. She lives in the UK and travelling to the US is hard for her. Our daughter immediately loved her and didn't want her to set her down. So my husband felt slighted about it, and as I said, he wants his mom to come here more often. Well, usually I don't mind when my mother-in-law stops by, but she came by unannounced this morning at 8:30 a.m, and I mean, I'd just woken up with the baby. She had a long night teething, so I'm talking about 3 hours of sleep. She comes in and says my husband told her to come over and hang out for the day. She said she cleared her entire schedule to be here. I just shook my head and said, I really don't want to deal with the baby screaming all day long. I wish you guys had run this by me. You know I love having you here, but this whole let's force a bond BS is dragging me mentally. You guys should have asked me. She looked hurt and said, it's okay, sweetie, I can go, and she left a few minutes later. But now my husband is mad at me, insisting that this would have worked. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. In fact, give your husband a chance to prove his theory. You leave for a few hours and let him have fun with a screaming baby. Let him take the baby to mother-in-law. Change the scenery and remove yourself, as the baby is likely reacting to your stress at this point. Your baby can sense you better than anyone. Dad absolutely needs to be part of the solution instead of volunteering his tired and stressed out wife for more hours of sound torture. He takes the baby to mother-in-law and OP stays home and has some time to herself. Sorry, OP, but that was really an idiot move on his part. You're the idiot. You can't keep ignoring the problem. Your husband should have talked to you before asking his mom to come around for a whole day. Still, he's right that avoiding your mother-in-law is neither fair nor effective in dealing with this. Get support with your fears around the breath holding and processing your anxiety around the baby, and come up with a plan to face the issue instead of pushing away your mother-in-law. That isn't a solution. I'm a father to a 22-year-old. We lost her mom to a DUI in 2018. Her mom was very career-oriented and always pushed her to go to college and get a high-paying job. She also bought all of her clothes and made sure she looked presentable. After her mom died, her grades began plummeting out of control to the point where she risked not passing most of her classes. I tried filling that role to give her that push, but it only made her more distant and stubborn. She grew very resentful and depressed, to where I feared I'd lose her too. It was a very emotionally turbulent period. But she eventually opened up and revealed that she felt lost because she spent her whole life following her mom's expectations. And now she was gone, she didn't feel like she had any direction or identity of her own to go forward. After that, my main priority shifted towards helping her discover herself and find autonomy. And part of that included going to the mall and giving her the freedom to choose whatever she wanted to wear. She gravitated towards more outlandish styles than anything her mom had ever chosen for her. Fishnet, leather, plaid skirts, belts, etc., and started experimenting with vibrant hair color and styling it into a mohawk. I figured it was a phase, but she really found herself in this identity. Nowadays, she makes many of her designs and gets excited to send me pictures of herself when she makes a new fashion that she wants to share with me. This change put her in a much better emotional place, but her grades never returned to what they once were. She got rejected by the colleges she'd applied for, and that's around when the global issue hit, so she opted out of pursuing college. I said she could stay with me for as long as she needed, and she's still here to this day. The conflict. Her maternal grandmother called me the other day. I guess someone had posted a photo of a protest on social media that my daughter could be seen in, and that set her off on me. She claimed that I betrayed her daughter's memory and that her grandkid should have been graduating college this year and moving out on her own with a good man. Because she now looks like a delinquent, she's ruined any chance of having a stable life, a respectable job, or a good husband. That she's been set up for failure, doesn't surround herself with people who will push her to grow, and will be stuck living with me. I should have taken charge instead of letting her make these decisions when she was so young, vulnerable, and confused. Her words have been eating away at me and left me questioning if there's merit. I do have doubts and worry about her being well off and having enough security for the future, and she's missed opportunities because of how she presents herself, but I'm still proud of who she's become. Am I the idiot for encouraging and enabling her punk outlook rather than working to set her on the more lucrative path her mother had always dreamed for her? Not the idiot, of course. It's awful that your wife is not around to share your parenting of your marvellous daughter. Still, you've done the right thing in helping her follow her path and maintain a good relationship with her. Your mother-in-law is exhibiting a classic case of drive-by parenting. I suspect she didn't care to help you and your daughter on your healing journey over the last 6 years. She lost any right to comment on the destination by not sharing in that journey. It may well be that your late wife would not have approved of your daughter's choices, let's be honest. But one thing about being dead is that you don't get to vote. It may also be that she would have found a way to accommodate herself to the reality that you're raising a human being and not a parental aspiration. In short, well done for what you've done, and feel free to tell your mother-in-law to take her insecurities to people who care about them. I inherited a home years ago from my mother. It was overall outdated but in good condition. It's 5 hours away from where I live. My daughter, 26, and her husband fell on hard times, and I allowed her to move in about 2 years ago for free. It's near the city where they work. I paid for everything and let them use it to get back on their feet. I informed them that they could make changes to the home, just not take out walls or any huge stuff. The last time I was at the home was about a year ago, and it just looked like they painted. The house is causing issues with my finances now, and I've had multiple people reach out to me to sell. I also want to sell it since I'm tired of seeing the home. It just reminds me of my mom and that she's gone. So being a landlord isn't good for my mental health. So I decided to sell. I informed my daughter that they have 6 months to find a new place. This started an argument. She apparently put in a lot of upgrades, such as redoing the stairs and kitchen, and are in the middle of redoing the bathroom. That I'm screwing them over and that now the house is worth more. She called me a jerk for this, and I reminded them that I gave them 2 years of free housing. Edit, I don't know what they spent. I'm not going to give them money for making major changes without my permission, on top of letting them live rent-free for 2 years. I do know how much I saved them. Rent in that area is around $2,000 and utilities are about $400, so $2,400 each month. So $2,400 times 24 equals $57,600. I highly doubt they put that much into the home. They can't afford to buy it, so the home will probably sell for around $400,000 to $500,000. Even when it was outdated, it was a big home with some land and in a very nice area. I want the house out of my life. It affects my mental health. OP, I get your point. You didn't ask or want those changes and save them over $50,000 of rent. I really do understand your point of view. It's not what I would do, but I get it. But looking at your edit, why even bother asking if you're the idiot since you can't even consider different points of view? At first sight, I would say OP, just sell, but I agree with this comment. OP sees things in black and white and can't seem to find any middle ground, maybe because it's hard work to do so. End of the day, if it was my daughter, I would make sure she at least feels heard and not say a blank no to any suggestion. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should or there's no other way. The house is 5 hours away. How is seeing it bad for your mental health? Why didn't you just ask your daughter to start paying rent to cover whatever it's costing you financially? If they're the ones doing the upgrades and you didn't have to worry about late rent since you didn't charge them anyway, how is being a landlord bad for your mental health? It seems like you like the upgrades and just want to sell them to make a quick buck. Be prepared to never see your daughter or future grandkids ever again. Hope it's worth it. You are the idiot. This is about my middle daughter, Cara. A few months ago, I informed her that I would stop giving her an allowance when she was in her mid-teens. I did this because she's old enough to earn her own pocket money by getting a job or babysitting for anyone in the family. It's also good job experience for her to work and really understand getting a paycheck, not to mention learning how to interact with co-workers. Multiple families have younger children and are always asking for relatives who can babysit, so there's something quite easy for her to do if she doesn't want to get a part-time job. I did the same thing with my older son and he got his own job at the local pool. There are plenty of jobs around the area, so that's not an issue. I made it clear I would help both of them get jobs, and when my son asked, I helped him with his resume. So her birthday came and went. She asked me where her allowance was, and I reminded her that she no longer gets one. This started an argument and she thinks I'm an idiot for doing this. My husband also thinks I should give in, but I do not. You are the idiot. That age is an odd choice. 18 makes more sense to me. I wouldn't want my kid to lose focus on their education. They have the rest of their lives to work. In my opinion, children shouldn't have to work until 18. I make more than enough to support my kid. You do you, though. Why? Where I live, her age is when it becomes much easier for a kid to find a part-time job. Working a few hours a week for pocket money shouldn't be enough to put anyone's education at risk, and if it does, OP can make an adjustment. I'm not sure why this seems like such a surprise to the daughter, since it seems OP did the same with an older brother. OP's not the idiot. Agreed. OP even gave Kara an easy solution, babysitting for friends and family. She doesn't even have to find a job. She can put her work history on her college applications in a couple of years. Sounds like the kid is a little lazy and/or entitled. This is a great way to cure her of that. And if OP did the same with the older brother, I'm not sure why Kara would be surprised that this is the expectation.